When a narcissist sees you as too strong, they'll try this one last dirty trick. You finally reached a place they feared most. You stood up to them. You walked away from their manipulation. You rebuilt your life without looking back. And worst of all, for them, you did it with strength they could never match. That's when they realized the truth. You were not just another victim. You were someone who saw through their games, someone who challenged their control. And now you are thriving without them. So what do? They panic. They plot. They prepare. Because narcissists don't let go easily, especially not when they see you rising above their influence. In this video, we'll reveal the one last dirty trick a narcissist uses when they realize you're stronger than they ever imagined. We'll explore how they try to regain power, how they manipulate from afar, and why they always come back with the same desperate move when you become untouchable. This isn't about love. It's not about healing. It's about control. And if you've ever wondered why a narcissist suddenly returns after months or years of silence, why they act like they miss you, cry for you, or beg for forgiveness, this video will give you clarity. So if you're ready to understand the final weapon in a narcissist's arsenal and protect yourself from falling into their trap again, keep watching. Because knowledge is protection, and once you know their game, you'll never be fooled by it again. Let's begin. If you're here, it means you've either lived through the pain of being manipulated by a narcissist, or you're trying to understand what happens when they suddenly return with fake remorse. Either way, you're not alone. Millions of people struggle with the aftermath of narcissistic abuse, and many of them don't realize that healing doesn't come from revenge. It comes from awareness. Before we dive into the heart of this topic, let's take a moment to connect. If you found this content helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with others who might benefit from it. Awareness is the first step toward healing, and by spreading the word, you're helping others break free from cycles of emotional manipulation and destruction. Now, let's start with the most important truth. When a narcissist sees you becoming too strong, they panic and they pull out their last weapon, guilt. Psychologists describe this behavior as part of a psychological pattern known as hoovering. Once a narcissist realizes they can no longer intimidate you, charm you, or manipulate you emotionally, they switch tactics. They come crawling back, not because they've changed, but because they've run out of options. They send messages filled with false remorse, not to make amends, but to regain control. Because for a narcissist, losing someone who saw through them completely is like losing oxygen, and their only way to breathe again is to pull you back into their world, even if just for a moment. Second, they pretend to miss you, but they really miss the power they had over you. Narcissists don't mourn people. They mourn control. They don't feel regret. They feel fear. Fear that they've lost the one person who gave them consistent emotional fuel. Fear that you've moved on and left them behind. So they reach out. They say all the right things. They act like they've been thinking about you constantly. They claim they've been hurting since you left. But none of it is real. None of it is sincere. It's desperation disguised as affection. Third, they stage an emotional crisis to make you think they need you more than ever. One of the most manipulative tricks narcissists use when they see you walking away with confidence is to create a crisis, a breakdown, a moment of vulnerability that seems real but isn't. They may say they're depressed. They may claim they can't function. They may even threaten self-harm. They may tell you they tried everything, but nothing helps. But therapists warn that this is often a calculated move. Not a cry for help, but a cry for attention. An attempt to reel you back in under the guise of suffering. Because they know your weakness, your compassion, your empathy, your desire to help. And they exploit it ruthlessly. Fourth, they rewrite history, not to heal, but to justify their behavior. Have you ever noticed how narcissists rarely admit fault? Even years later, they won't say, "I was wrong." Instead, they replay every interaction with you in their minds, twisting events so that they come out looking justified, misunderstood, or even victimized. Every time they think about you, they reinforce the narrative that paints them in the best possible light. You weren't hurt, you were too sensitive. You didn't walk away, You abandoned them. You weren't strong. You were cold and unfeeling. By rewriting the past, they protect their ego. And as long as they can convince themselves that they were right and you were wrong, they can sleep at night. Fifth, they suddenly idealize you again, briefly before devaluing you once more. There's a strange cycle that many narcissists go through after losing someone significant. First, they discard you. Then they idealize you again, remembering only the good parts, longing for the rush of admiration you once gave them. But then comes the crash. The realization that you won't come running when they call, that your absence is permanent. And so, they devalue you all over again, telling themselves you weren't that special after all, that you had flaws, that they're better off without you. This emotional yo-yo is exhausting for them and for anyone close enough to witness it. But it plays out in their minds long after you've disappeared from their lives. Sixth, they monitor your life from afar, even if you've cut contact completely. Despite everything they may say, despite the silence, the smear campaigns, the fake indifference, they think about you constantly. Not because they miss you, not because they regret hurting you, but because your absence created a void they can't fill. They check your social media obsessively. They ask mutual friends about you. They interpret your posts, your photos, your silence, and every time they see you smiling, happy, thriving without them, they feel something deeper than anger, humiliation. Because your success without them proves something they absolutely cannot accept. You never needed them. Seventh, they use your name in conversations to remind others they still have some connection to you. Even if you've gone silent, even if you've blocked them completely, narcissists still want people to believe they matter to you. So they drop your name in casual conversation. They mention shared memories. They hinted inside jokes. Why? To keep their image alive. To show they still have access to your story. To prove that you were never truly gone. Because for a narcissist, being seen as forgotten is worse than being hated. Eighth, they spread lies about you. Because they can't handle the truth. Once they realize you're not coming back, they turn to damage control. They talk about you behind your back. They twist the story. They paint themselves as victims. They tell others you were unstable. They say you were too intense. They imply you broke them, ruined them, changed them. And in doing so, they protect their ego. They shift blame. They rewrite history. Because if they can make people doubt you, they can convince themselves they were never beaten. Ninth, they try to provoke old emotions to make you feel something for them again. Narcissists hate being ignored. So they test your boundaries. They send cryptic messages. They post indirect references online. They stir up old conflicts. They want to know if you still carry their words. If you still react. If you still care. Because if they can get even a flicker of emotion from you, they believe they still have power. 10th, they suddenly surround themselves with people who resemble you to relive the energy they lost. When narcissists lose someone strong, they search desperately for replacements. They look for people who challenge them, who stand up to them, who resist their control. But they never find what they truly lost, because strength can't be faked, empathy can't be forced, and authenticity can't be replaced. So they keep searching, they keep testing, they keep reaching. But nothing feels quite like what you gave them. 11th, they fake vulnerability to disarm your defenses and pull you back in. Real recovery involves showing weakness, admitting mistakes, taking responsibility. Narcissists fake all of it. They share stories of past trauma. They confess fears they don't actually feel. They cry on cue. They write emotional posts about learning to be better. But none of it is sincere. Therapists explain that this is part of the hoovering process. By appearing vulnerable, they disarm your defenses. By seeming broken, they invite your empathy. And by playing the victim, they shift the blame, making you question whether you were the one who pushed too hard, left too fast, or failed to support their journey. 12th, they use your healing against you to make you feel guilty. As you rebuild your life, as you grow stronger, as you move forward without them, the narcissist begins to panic. Because your healing proves something they cannot accept, that you didn't need them, that you were stronger all along, that their presence wasn't necessary for your survival. So instead of celebrating your progress, they twist it. They make you feel guilty for walking away. They suggest you broke them, that you abandoned them, that you destroyed any chance they had at becoming a better person. And they do it all with a smile, with tears, with carefully chosen words that sound loving but are anything but. 13th, they mirror your growth to confuse you and pull you back in. Narcissists steal identities. They mimic emotions, and when they see you thriving, they adopt the same language, same behaviors, same values. Suddenly, they talk about boundaries. Suddenly, they claim to value peace. Suddenly, they say all the right things at the right time. But it's not real. It's a performance, a calculated attempt to win you back. They mirror your growth not to join you, but to trap you again. 14th, they devalue your progress because your success threatens them. Nothing hurts a narcissist more than seeing you happy without them. Your healing terrifies them. Your independence shakes them. Your ability to move forward without looking back is the ultimate insult. So they do what they always do when threatened. They devalue. They downplay your achievements. They question your decisions. They suggest you've gone too far. They imply you're not the same anymore. Because in their eyes, your growth means their loss. Your freedom means their failure. Your peace means their defeat. 15th, they return with fake apologies to reset the relationship on their terms. One of the most painful experiences survivors face is when a narcissist suddenly returns with a tearful apology, a dramatic message, a grand gesture. They say they've changed. They say they finally understand. They say they want to make things right. But psychologists warn that these apologies aren't meant to heal. They're meant to hook, to pull you back in, to reset the cycle under the illusion of transformation. And if you fall for it, you'll find yourself right back where you started under their influence. 16th, they create the illusion of change, just enough to hook you again. Change is not something narcissists pursue, it's something they perform. And the moment they sense an opportunity to regain control, they stage a comeback. They post inspirational quotes. They share lessons they never really learned. They speak about healing like they've experienced it. But it's not real. It's rehearsed. It's a comeback tour wrapped in spirituality. And if you fall for it, you'll find yourself right back where you started, chasing a version of them that never existed. 17th, they use your kindness against you to make you feel responsible. Empaths are drawn to suffering. They feel compelled to help, to guide, to rescue. And narcissists know this. That's why they stage emotional breakdowns. That's why they send desperate messages. That's why they pretend to be in crisis. They don't do it for healing. They do it for energy, for attention, for control. Because they know that if they play the victim well enough, you might just fall for it again. 18th, they pretend to respect your space while secretly testing your limits. One of the clearest signs that a narcissist isn't changing is how they treat your boundaries. Real growth involves learning to honor limits. Narcissistic growth involves finding ways to bypass them. They send subtle messages. They show up unexpectedly. They ask mutual friends about you. They monitor your life from a distance. And each time, they test your resolve. Not because they want to reconnect respectfully, but because they want to know how much control they can regain. 19th, they rewrite your role in their healing to make you feel obligated. In their mind, they tell themselves that you were the catalyst for their change, that you were the one who made them see the error of their ways, that they wouldn't have improved if it weren't for you. But here's the danger. They also tell you this. They drop hints. They send cryptic messages. They mention how much you taught them. And suddenly, you feel like you played a part in their transformation. But psychologists warn that this is classic manipulation. They don't want you to feel proud. They want you to feel responsible. They don't want you to celebrate your strength. They want you to believe you owe them something. 20th, they envy your freedom and they try to sabotage it. Narcissists don't just hate losing control. They hate knowing you're living freely without them. They fear your independence. They resent your happiness. They despise your detachment, because your peace represents their failure. Your healing confirms their flaws. Your moving on proves they were never truly powerful. And so, they do what they always do when they feel threatened. They try to disrupt your peace. They stir up old conflicts. They provoke reactions. They make sure you remember their name. 21st, they use your silence as a sign of weakness, not strength. When you walk away and refuse to engage, narcissists don't see it as wisdom. They see it as hesitation, as fear, as invitation. So they return with confidence. They return with boldness. They return believing they can easily pull you back in. Because to a narcissist, silence isn't strength. It's confusion. It's unfinished business. It's an open door. And they believe that if they knock loud enough, you'll eventually answer. 22nd, they try to make you feel like the bad guy for walking away. Despite everything they did to you, despite the gaslighting, the manipulation, the emotional games, they still manage to turn the tables. They make you feel like the villain. They make you question your decision to leave. They make you wonder if you were too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. And they do it with such skill that you almost believe them. But remember this, you were never cruel. You were never unjust. You were simply human, protecting your own spirit. And now, you must learn to protect it again. 23rd, they claim to be working on themselves, but only when you're within reach. Narcissists don't work on themselves consistently. Their growth is situational. It appears only when they think you're watching. When they believe there's a chance to get you back, they suddenly become deep thinkers, spiritual seekers, and emotional warriors. But the moment they realize you're not coming back, the moment they see that you're truly free, they stop talking about growth. They stop posting about healing. They return to their old ways convinced they were never wrong, because their recovery was never real. It was always a performance. 24th, they try to make you feel like you missed out on their new life. Narcissists thrive on making people feel excluded. And when they see you moving forward without them, they panic. So they craft a new identity. They post pictures of happy moments. They talk about new lovers like they matter more than you ever did. And they do it all to make you feel like you missed something. To make you wonder if you left too soon. To make you question whether you made the right choice. But here's the truth. You didn't miss out. You escaped. And now, you're building something real. Something they could never offer. 25th, they compare themselves to you trying to regain superiority. Narcissists define themselves by how they stack up against others, and when they see you thriving, happy and living a life they can no longer touch, it stirs something dangerous inside them. Resentment, jealousy, hatred. Because you represent everything they tried to destroy in you, everything they failed to crush, everything they secretly wanted for themselves, and now you have it. Peace, freedom, clarity, and they don't. So if you've recognized any of these truths in your own experience, take a deep breath and remind yourself of this one unshakable truth. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply recovering from an experience that was never meant to be easy. You were never chosen by the narcissist in your life because you were vulnerable. You were chosen because you had something real, something valuable, something they needed. Whether it was your strength, your empathy, your resilience, or your love, you brought something into their world that they deeply needed, even if they never acknowledged it. And now, you have the chance to reclaim that strength and use it for yourself, for your healing, for your growth, and for the life you deserve to live. A life free from manipulation. A life free from control. A life where your worth is not questioned, your emotions are not twisted, and your strength is not diminished. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this message meaningful or helpful, please consider taking just a few seconds to like, subscribe, and share this content with others who may be going through something similar. Awareness is the first step toward healing. Understanding the dynamics between you and the narcissist in your life helps you see the full picture, not just the pain, but the transformation that follows. Remember, you are not alone. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply human, recovering from something far more complex than most people understand. Keep moving forward. Trust your instincts. And never forget that your strength is real, and it belongs to you now, fully and completely. Stay strong, stay aware, and always remember, you are not alone.